if you're in a state of depression and apathy, I'm gonna say something a little bit surprising to you. It's probably better for you to try to go from apathy to anger than it would be to go from apathy all the way up to, like, unconditional love or joy. A lot of times when we're in a really dark place, when we're in the depths of despair and hopelessness, to make a quantum leap is just asking too much, and it's just going to set us up for failure and kind of put us back in the same cycle. So what we need to realize is it's better to go from, say, apathy to anger than it is to try to go from apathy to, like, joy and obviously not be able to make that quantum leap, and then you're just going to be hard on yourself and go right back to apathy, right? Because here's the thing, there's so much more energy available in the state of anger than there is apathy. With anger, you have the energy to really take action, to, like, change things. And anger is not an ideal place to be, and it's not where you want to stay, but it's a hell of a lot better than apathy or, like, fear. And even fear, as awful and as constricting and contracting as fear is, it has even more energy than apathy. Because fear of survival can make people do things to, like, put food on the table and those type of things. So the level of apathy, if you're, like, in a really deep depression, it's about, like, how do we climb out of this one step at a time. It's not how do I just become some enlightened Buddha tomorrow? How do I become the most joyful person in the world? How do I harness unconditional love in a week, in a day? These are things that take time. So it's better to look at this, to look at your situation as like a video game. And how do you play a video game? Well, you go one level at a time, and that's what I've learned through the levels of energy or through power versus force. These are really good books that illustrate how much energy is available at different emotional states, at different internal states. So for example, apathy is at the very bottom. Apathy has very little energy. Apathy is where I was for months and months, where I couldn't even get out of bed. I couldn't think one positive thought. I was just hopelessness. I was filled with hopelessness and helplessness, and I had no power to make any changes. Really a miserable place to be. But what we learn is if we can just go from apathy to, hopefully we can transcend fear. Fear is a little better than apathy, but it's still a pretty rough area to be going or to be existing at. And don't get me wrong, like, of course I still have fear that arises from time to time. And transcending these levels isn't about getting rid of these feelings, it's about how do you respond to them in a major way. But so if we can go from apathy to, like, anger, you'll notice if you let yourself feel just that rage, that anger about your situation that you probably hate. If you're in apathy, most likely you're depressed and you're not choosing to be where you are. And that's a big thing too. The spectrum of difference between apathy and depression and solitude is choosing to be where you are. So if we're not choosing to be where we are, we're going to be depressed. If we choose to be where we are, that depression turns into solitude. But what I'm getting at is if we can harness an energy of anger for a while, then we're going to notice we have way more energy to make some changes. To maybe we just get so pissed off about our situation, about what's going on, about being such a victim of life, and maybe we temporarily need to blame somebody, and we just you'll notice that energy of blame and that energy of, like, just, like, getting upset and kind of just taking the pressure off yourself for a minute. It has a lot more movement to it, and it's going to get you to a different state than that apathy where you're just beating yourself up and you're so hard on yourself and you're just really destroying your your well-being by all your negative thoughts towards yourself. Now, of course, anger is not where we want to stay. Anger just gets us to the next ladder. Okay, so then we get to anger and we realize, well, this kind of isn't, this is better than apathy. I'm out of bed, I'm moving in the world, but I don't really like, being angry all the time. I'm ready for the next step. Well, then what we do is we take the next step to courage. Courage is the first level of energy that is positive, that is constructive. And anger is constructive when compared to apathy. So of course this is all relative, but I'm just talking in the larger scheme. It goes apathy, then fear, then anger, then pride, and then courage. And I think we can all go. I think we can go from anger to courage, just like I think we can go from apathy to anger. We can skip fear. I think also you can go from like just anger to courage. And what courage is now you're willing to take responsibility for your inner state. You're letting go of blame. You're letting go of any victimization at all. And now we're starting to get more positive energy. We're starting to get more constructive energy. And once we can get to courage, once we can embody courage, that's when things can really start to pick up in a positive way. But it's really hard to go from apathy straight to this place of positive momentum. Because like if we're going in a freight truck 100 miles an hour this way, and we want to instantly just turn around and then start going 100 miles an hour this way, well, the cargo in that crazy churn is going to get damaged. And it's not a wise thing to do. And that's like what taking a quantum leap is trying to do. If you're trying to go from, deep depression to like the transcendent states, it's just gonna cause more pain. It's unnecessary. And what we want to do is just take the next step. And I want to emphasize, if we go from apathy to anger, this isn't you project your anger on people. Perhaps you start speaking your truth, which will probably feel really good. And perhaps you get a little sloppy with it. You're speaking your truth and you accidentally, I've done this before. I've been someone who's been scared to speak my truth. My throat chakra was really closed for a long time. As you can tell now, it's quite open. But I used to like really have trouble letting my truth out. And for a while when I first started, it was a little bit too much. I was going kind of overkill, right? But just keep in mind that movement of going a little bit too much felt so much better than constricting it and keeping it in. So know that if you go a little bit too far with your anger and these feelings, that repressed feelings and suppressed feelings that have been in you, and you just start letting them up, you will course correct. Life will help you come to a correction over time on its own. So yeah, just take that next step, embrace, let yourself, this is less about projecting your anger on others. And it's really not about that at all. What it's about letting yourself feel your anger and letting that anger fuel your movement and letting it take you to the next level of energy, of consciousness. And then as you let that anger come up, things will start changing for you. You might go get that job that will help you change your circumstance. You might have so much anger, you're just gonna you let go of relationships that you see aren't serving you, because when you're apathetic, you just you feel helpless and out of touch and like you're just can't do anything. But with anger comes this surge of, I can do this. I'm gonna do this now. And then when we get into that movement, then we can go to courage. It's an way easier jump from anger to courage than it is from apathy to courage. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. I feel like, when we're in I feel like this channel, I talk so much about love and embodying light and transcending the lower states, but I don't think I do a good enough job sometimes of explaining how it's actually one step at a time, and we don't need to be hard on ourselves if it's feeling impossible to go from a really low state to a higher state, because quite frankly, it can feel impossible and it's unnecessary. So like I was saying, as that freight truck slows down, as we just go from apathy to anger, we've slowed it down, the negative momentum, a lot. And then as it gets slower and slower, we go from anger to courage and we start churning around. And once we've turned around and start going this way, boom, then we're up into willingness. And then we're up into like neutrality and peace and reason. And, it's actually reason and peace. It doesn't matter. You get up high, it's like reason, peace, love, joy, enlightenment, whatever. It's all, at that point, it's all, just positive momentum. So that's my movement for you guys today, is just embrace the next state, and you don't have to stay there for long. You don't have to stay in anger and really getting mad and feeling your anger for more than a couple weeks, or maybe even a little bit less. It's all everyone's journey is a little different. It's dependent on what you know you need, and you know what you need better than anyone else does. And if you need to feel your anger to get you out of a state of depression and apathy, then let yourself feel it, and just know it's not permanent, and then we can take the next step together up to courage. So I hope this helps all of you who are in a state of apathy, who are feeling depressed. I've been there, I've been there, I've been there. It does get better. Just allow yourself the permission to feel the next level of energy, the anger, if that helps you. Namaste.